I can't believe I'm actually doing this to myself. God, I hate this damned swamp. I really hate this swamp. I just want to go home. What? Danger ahead, huh? Well, too bad this sign can't stop me, for I cannot read. I really gotta start taking some classes. Alrighty. Well, behind this gate is my next target. Rolling over this god-awful swamp. What an absolute waste of time. This place reeks. I could have just left and nobody would have even known I came here. You know what? Scratch that. The stain on my reputation that would make if I just walked home. Oh, shut your mouth and get down here. Welcome back to Voxlblade Weaponless, a series where I try to beat every single boss in Voxlblade completely solo with no outside help. Without any further interruptions, here's episode 6 of Voxlblade Weaponless. Enjoy the show. So, now that we arrived at the Lord Frogg Cavern, things are getting interesting. My gear at this point is as follows. Burning Dragator helmet with 2x Curse Flame armor, a caster ring, and a fireball rune. I've infused 2x mage armor as well as a Dragator piece. With all this gear at hand, it's time to take down this place once and for all. The Lord Frogg Cavern consists of 20 waves, each supposedly, getting more and more difficult than the last, with the 20th being the boss wave. So, here's how the dungeon run went. So, first off, as always, wave 1, which is just 3 bullfrogs. Not much to say here, it's just a handful of frogs, and frogs are not immune to fire. Next up we got wave 2, 3 bullfrogs, and 1 toadzerker this time. The frogs are back, but they brought their big brother. Yet again, still not immune to fire. Wave 3, we got 3 toadzerkers. This is usually the one that murders new players who don't know how to deal with mobs yet, so still really easy. Moving on to wave 4, you may notice that the scaling speed is a little bit slower when you're not running the corrupted version. I was feeling very confident after realizing this. Wave 5 is where Croakernauts start arriving. This is where things get fun, as Croakernauts give all nearby enemies the reinforce effect, which causes them to take 50% less damage. However, this still does not make them fireproof. Wave 6 is just bullfrogs, but more. It's a whopping 2 handfuls of frogs. That's a decent amount of frogs. Wave 7, you may realize, is wave 5, but with less mobs, and easier, so that's fun. Hopefully this isn't a recurring issue. Wave 8 is just like wave 7, but now there's a bullfrog, and 1 more toadzerker. Truly the most difficult wave, trust me guys. Wave 9 is just 3 Croakernauts. They're not all that dangerous by themselves, so having 3 times that is just very silly. Oh my god, is it time consuming though, the reinforce is so annoying. Wave 10 is the first Dragator we see of this run, and oh my god, if I see another Dragator, I might just scream. This is the halfway mark of the dungeon, so it's fitting that the difficulty starts to actually get difficult, you know, like the name implies. We'll be seeing much more Dragagators down the line. From this point on, I'm also not going to cut Dragator fights, just so you can see how I handled them, since Dragagators are probably the only difficult part of this dungeon other than Lord Frogg. So just bear that in mind, I guess. Wave 11 is just wave 9, but they actually have damage dealers this time. Toadzerkers. Still just time consuming. Wave 12 is where the difficulty actually feels like it goes up, as a normal build soloing this wave is a little bit annoying, as the bullfrogs combined with Croakernauts make an actual devastating combo. And of course wave 13 is just a Dragator again, but with backup dancers this time. It's practically just wave 10, but with a little bit more running around and kiting. If you guys are curious, I'll go into a little bit more detail on how I actually avoid Dragagators in the coming waves. But as of right now, you can kind of see I just kind of keep my distance and use my fireballs with 1 Dragator, as you just kite their beam over and over. Being ranged in Voxlblade is the easiest cakewalk anyone could ask for. Wave 14 is just Croakernauts, but more Croakernauts. Yippee! This is truly the Voxlblade of all time. I love doing Frog Dungeon. Croakernauts are so much fun. They totally don't just take up time. Oh my god. But yeah, as usual, just kite them, throw a fireball, yada yada, you know the deal. Wave 15. This is where the waves actually get interesting. Too bad it's 3/4 into the dungeon. Infinite Frog win? Anywho, this is where 2 Dragagators start spawning, which is where I have to kind of actually think about what I'm doing instead of just throwing fireball and walking to the left or right. When dealing with 2 Dragagators on literally any build, try to isolate their attacks so that they have an opening in between each other. Like in my case, I tried to get the fireballs in between the attacks where there was the largest opening, since they will always attack in the same pattern unless they start meleeing, as their melee tail swipes actually throw off the timing since it's faster than the beam. But that's nerd talk, who cares? When I said that Croconauts took a long time, I was kind of exaggerating. Dragagators are the real problem here. These little bastards decide to take all of my life away because of their fire defense, meaning that basically all of my damage is the hex damage from the curse flames, which, as we saw in the last episode, is actually my lowest source of damage out of the 3 sources. Wave 16 is 2 Dragagators yet again, but now we've got some fighting force to add pressure. These Toadzerkers and Croconauts don't cause me much of an issue, but if I put too much focus into them, I could be caught off guard and absolutely beamed by a Dragagator. And so I put all of my focus into trying to keep myself moving side to side while also taking out the mobs, just in case the Dragator spawned while I was standing still, because that would be very scary. A lot of this is just focusing, which is why during these waves, I'm zoomed out as much as possible, my camera's up a bit, and I'm trying to keep myself looking towards the 2 possible Dragagator spawn points. Because if you didn't know, they actually will never spawn on the gate side. They will only ever spawn on the 3 towards Lord Frogg himself. Also during these waves, I tried to take out the little lurkers first, the Croconauts and Toadzerkers, before I try to get my main damage on the Dragagators, primarily because if I'm in the middle of my fireball throwing and one of them sneaks up on me, not really much I can do, so I honestly consider them more of a threat than the Dragagators when it comes down to the group as a whole. Alright, now we've made it to Wave 17, where we get to experience 3 Dragagators basically at the same time. This wave is rough only because they stack up, so I'm trying to take one out at a time as fast as possible, but once they group up, I kind of try to sync their moves so I can group them together and just keep on kiting on the outer circle so it's only ever beam attacks. And I get close sometimes, but only if I deem that it's safe. For anyone who wants to learn how to fight a Dragagator, if you are pure melee and you've got no other ranged alternatives, I'd recommend getting your hits in, waiting for the tail swing, and then if you are really fast, you can run away from it, so you can avoid the tail swing entirely and take 0 damage. You can hold F to block, believe it or not, and mitigate a lot of it, but if you're running like a true damage strong daily, that's not really an option if you have no self-sustain. And the third option is you can dive straight through the Dragagator while they're swinging and get behind them, which is really risky, by the way, but has great payout because you're still next to them. You can dive through and then immediately keep your damage going, and overall lets you stay in the fight. If you have self-sustain from your melee attacks, this is a great option because you're constantly keeping yourself alive and running. Wave 18 in the corrupted version of this dungeon is usually the most difficult wave, as with the doubles enemy modifier especially, the mob count can reach up to 100 mobs in just one wave. However, this is 1x classic and no dailies, no double enemies, so it's not much of a problem. This is more of a palate cleanser, getting me ready, letting me kind of focus up, because I'm going to definitely need to focus up when it comes down to the wave 20. Anywho, I deal with the Dragagator just like usual, dodgy, keep away. It's nothing crazy, but once you see Wave 19, you're going to wonder if this challenge was even possible in the first place. Yeah, Wave 19 is just one singular bunny. It's not that difficult. But here's where the fun begins. Lord Frogg. Wave 20 is the Lord Frogg, the final wave. Also the only wave in this entire run where I took damage. This is because of the weird video game bug called Major Skill Issue, where I decided to jump way too late and I got hit by the first slam and his first jump. Thankfully, this was the only time I took damage, so it's fine. So just like Queen Bee, let's go over the attacks before I show you the whole fight. Lord Frogg is much more simple than the Queen Bee, as none of his attacks are necessarily ranged attacks. He's got a forward, locked-in-place, guard-breaking slam that does major damage, a side swipe which is blockable but tracks your direction, so you have to either run backwards or block it, and a jump slam that hits a massive area around him, covering just nearly 3/4 of the arena, which you can avoid by jumping or blocking. So let's see how I solve this fight, nearly never taking damage the whole run. And that's the Lord down.